regular meeting regular meeting of the Mountain View Wisconsin School District to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Have a roll call, please.
Evan Conley,
Anna Reed, Lisa Henry,
Charles DeFazio.
Bill Lambert, all the trustees are present. So do I have any questions about the agenda? Okay, I see one card for comment on the agenda, former trustee Nelson. Yeah.
Testing. Done.
Now
Yes.
we're on.
I don't know where the thing is, but this will take less than 3 minutes. What I'm interested in the agenda is more of the things that aren't on the agenda. One of the things that we've talked about and you have doing on this thing is trying to offload some of your stuff, things that you were doing, particularly with the housing. So it's done by nonprofit corporation, and get back to looking at things like academics and student wellness and teacher wellness. So two of the things that aren't on this agenda and that are vital to what the purpose of this organization is one, there's no student academics. There's no follow-up on what was done at the last meeting where there was reports on what a big report with almost 1,000 numbers showing what the individual breakdown on the G3, the thing that is the precursor of what the Common Core is. There's no follow-up on that. And the other thing, there's no board calendar. Somehow the new regime, the new superintendent, I don't know if Bill Lambert knows there used to be a board calendar on the bottom of the agenda. And what that would do is that would tell what the things are going to have to come up because statutory reasons to get done next month. But also it's what the stuff that you guys asked to put on the agenda. We want to have a meeting at Castro. I heard that hasn't happened. We want to have a report back, and I have heard this, on what the result of how the computers are being used. We don't know when that's coming up. We don't know with the public how to do our research to look at those things beforehand, not just a great, 6 days beforehand, a thing that the staff has been wonderfully doing for more than the last decade, more than the last 3 permanent superintendents. But the issue of, do you know what's going to happen next meeting? There apparently is a document. I can put it in a Public Records Act and get it, but it should be published according to the California School Boards Association workshops on the best governance techniques. It should be transparent to everybody, and you guys should be able to see, oh, I don't see when G1 is on the report. What time during the year is that going to show up? Thank you.
Okay, my apologies for not including the governance calendar on the agenda. It is typically appeared on the agenda. It was just an oversight this time.
Yeah, well, there's 2 of you now working on the agenda, right?
Okay. I don't see anyone else in person wishing to speak. Do I have any comments or a motion to approve the agenda?
make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion by trustee Conley and a second by trustee DeFazio to approve the motion as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move to item 2 of the agenda, opportunity for members of the public to address the board concerning items in the closed session agenda. Is there anyone in person who would like to speak on a closed session item? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone online who would like to speak? A closed session item. Don't see any. I will close the open session and we will move to the closed session at 6:06. Okay, we'll bring go back to open session at 7:04. There was no reportable action taken during the closed session. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have any questions from the board?
Um,
Trustee Henry?
I wanted to pull item I.
Trustee DeFazio?
I want to pull the personnel report just for a quick comment.
I have two minor corrections on item F and item G. I'm going to give you those
Please,
now.
Mr.
Okay. In item 1, this is the authorizing delegation of authority to sign official documents. There's a date change there. It has August 18, 2016 listed. That should be changed to August 30, 2026. And then in the second resolution 2, that should also be changed to August 30, 2026. And also Swati Dagger is listed as a signator, and her that's just a title change. She's the Director of Student Services.
Hey, thank you. Any other questions?
No, could you just restate which items have been pulled?
Item A1, personnel report, and item I.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have any public comments on the consent agenda? And if there's anyone online wishing to speak on the consent agenda, please raise your hand now. And then I'm going to close further, further speakers. Don't see anyone online wishing to speak on the consent agenda. Okay. First one, Mr. Granathan.
Good evening, Board Superintendent. I just wanted to object, as I have in the past, to the inclusion of really large ticket items on consent agenda. The Farrakhan schematic design is, I think, $1 million, and the lease back is $750K. These are large enough that I think they would warrant at least a cursory discussion on their own. And I think just in terms of optics and best practices, it would be good to get really large ticket items out of consent. So I'm going to make that request again. I consider that for the future. That's it. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Granathan. Next speaker, I have no name. Speak.
Okay, I just want to note that thank you, trustees, for listening to the community feedback on some of the consent agenda that happened offline. There are a couple of things that were brought to my attention with the incorrect errors on some of the resolutions, and as well as pulling off some of the large cost items. So I just want to say I really appreciate that, and that saves me a lot of trouble of bringing those things up. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think what we'll do is approve the consent, ask to approve the consent agenda with items 1 and number I pulled, A1 and I, and with the amendments recommended by Superintendent Bear.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Trustee Conley and a second by Trustee Henry to approve the consent agenda as amended with items A1 and I pulled. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Shall we start with item A1?
I just, in looking at the personnel report, I think when we initially joined, we'd also kind of discussed how contracts were presented and kind of gave some feedback that helped it be a little more easily parsed. And I think an improvement for me, especially for like the new year ones, where it's the new hires and like large lists like this, I think was 5 pages or so, to help me process that and kind of parse it out and understand the changes at a high level, what's going on. I just had some suggestions for how to adjust that, which might be generally organized by site, then within the site by the action being taken, and then by the effective date. Because right now we just pass it up and down by effective date. So I think this is just a kind of improvement to help be more efficient about understanding and making sure we're getting the big picture of what changes are happening at the schools and at the district office.
Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you. I think then we'll,
I have just one comment. I second that. When I'm looking at that personnel report, I do try to make note of everything per site. So I think organizing by site would be helpful.
The only thing that I might note is, I'm not opposed to that, but maybe it's just presented in multiple ways, because sometimes it's organized by position too. And so when we have a whole bunch of preschool teachers and they've been rehired, or, we've had incidents where there's different roles that are temporary and then they get rehired. And if that's broken out by site and they're not grouped together, that also might be a little bit confusing. So it could be that it's just presented in 2 different ways in the packet, Superintendent Bear.
I would highly recommend to be presented in one way, just because the potential for there to be a name missing, and the board is approving a single personnel report.
Okay. So that I don't know.
A sheet that we could sort based on preference. I don't know if a sheet,
Or if there's just a summary at the end of the document that shows how many and which positions have changed at each school site.
Yeah, I'll talk to Aaron Green about that. See how we can do that.
okay, then we'll, let's address item I, then we can vote on both of them together.
I was just hoping to get a little bit more kind of context for this transaction, and a little more context, background, what's going on. And I was also curious if there have been, kind of interim things, but mostly just kind of the additional information on transaction.
So a leaseback is a method where a district can do construction through a competitive process. So we issue an RFP and then we can select the best value. So we lease the site to the individual doing the construction, and then we pay lease payments back. So in this case, the project has been completed per contract. We issued a notice of completion. It's been completed for over 60 days. So per the contract at this point, we have the option to pay out the entire leaseback period. So this actually saves the district a little bit of money in interest. So we're saving approximately $1,600 in interest by paying this ahead of time. So these payments would be required based on the contract that we have already signed.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, do I have a motion to approve personnel report A1 and item I?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Henry and a second by trustee DeFazio to approve item A1 and I. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to communications. Are there any employee representatives of employee organizations who wish to speak this evening? You're not seeing any? Are there any representatives of district committees who would like to speak? Trustee DeFazio?
So earlier this week, Board Policy Committee met, and as the chair, I'd like to give an update. So August 20th, 2025 was our meeting. We reviewed and discussed 8 board policies and 1 bylaw. Many came from the CSBA June policy packet, and some came as follow-ups from the previous policy committee meetings. We recommended 5 policies and 1 bylaw for approval. Board Policy 0410, non-discrimination in district programs and activities. Board Policy 0420.4, charter school authorization. Board Policy 4033, lactation accommodations. BP 5125.1, release of directory information, BP 6158, independent study short term, and board bylaw 9011, disclosure of confidential / privileged information. Expect these to come for first reading at a future board meeting. We provided feedback to staff on one policy, which was BP 6145.2, athletic competition. We provided some edits for removing some unnecessary sections, and then two policies, 3311 bids and 3312 contracts will come to full board in a future meeting, along with, as we discussed earlier in the last year, the requested discussion around contracts and bidding processes. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 17th, 2025. Thank you.
Any other district committee reports? Okay, Superintendent Bear.
Yeah, just a good evening. Welcome back to the 25-26 school year. Just a couple of items. One, recognizing we had a back to school celebration on Saturday at Graham. We kicked off the school year with our first ever back to school celebratory event. Families from across the district came together. It was a fun-filled morning, music, food trucks, a lot of community resources there. Grateful for the city of Mountain View. They had probably 6 departments out there. CSA was out there. The Day Worker Center was there. Just a whole range of resources for our community to be exposed to. We had several giveaways, including free books, and gave away 150 backpacks to start the school year, and a welcome table from each school. It was just a great opportunity for our Mountain View Wisman community to connect. Big thanks go to our school and community engagement facilitators for organizing this, taking this on their own, and really bringing it to life, and all the staffs and administrators and volunteers who manned tables and showed up for the evening. Another recognition is the Crittenden PTA. Crittenden and its PTA were awarded a National PTA School of Excellence Award. Crittenden was one of only 330 schools and PTAs across the nation selected for this honor. So big kudos to Crittenden and their community for being recognized. And that's it. It's school year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will now move on to community comments. This is the time reserved for community members to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. The Board of the Administration welcomed this opportunity to listen. However, in compliance with the Brown Act, the board is not permitted to take action on non-agenda items. Speakers are requested to complete a speaker card and state their name for the record. Okay, we are accepting speaker cards now, and anyone who would like to speak online, please raise your hand. And I'll wait a moment here, and then I will close online requests. Okay, I see one hand up online. We will take the in-person card speakers first. Former trustee Stephen Nelson.
Thank you, board. I wanted to let you know that the recall petition is now legally approved. It will be going out for signatures. And in this process, there is, the intention thing that was served to Trustee Conley, and there was an answer. And part of her answer was what I'll call the $1 million question. Is this going to cost $1 million to have a recall election? And the answer actually has 3 phases. Conley's truth is that it will take $1 million, approximately $1 million, but that's not the whole truth and nothing but the truth. The board majority may vote in January, when this may come to you, for $1 million special ballot. Yeah, a special election held just by itself. This would likely help Conley because she's an incumbent, but the board may decline to vote. An odd thing of how elections law is. It may decline to vote, and that puts the question back to the registrar of voters, who now must call for a consolidated ballot. That forces it into the next primary election in June. That's what she must do, or I guess the he now. This is a E minus 180. There is election day in June, minus 180 days. If this recall goes to her earlier after December 8th, no, I keep on saying she, the registrar has to put it on the consolidated election. So you're not going to have to vote one way or another, and you certainly aren't going to have to vote for $1 million special election. If you just let it slide, refuse to vote on anything, if she makes a motion that she wants $1 million election, the rest of you just can decline to second it, and it'll just sidle off to the register of voters. So by law, our legislator Berman was the one that changed this. And December 6th is this magic date, E minus 180. The cost will be more than 5 times cheaper if it goes into a consolidated election. It's something like 164,000. That's less than just the PR contract back into Washington, D.C. So that's not the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please save money for our students. And Conley, you can just resign like you were going to do in January, and that would be $0 for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Next speaker is without a name.
Hi, my name is Ling. I just want to note that there have been a lot of improvements this year. Graham's transformation has been amazing. I know so many families that have actually come back from private schools, but we still have a lot of processes and systemic issues. And we can put as many processes in place, but if the people executing them have poor judgment and understanding, no amount of guardrails is going to fix that. And in terms of the recall, however anyone feels about that, I would just say that I think the public is looking for accountability. And part of that is there's a part of the public that doesn't feel like there is accountability. And so it is a path to look for accountability, whether you think that is right or wrong. So thank you.
Thank you. I have one, just a comment here. Okay, next I will take the online speaker, taxpayer.
Frustrated taxpayer. You left that part out.
Later tax.
So I'm a parent, and like my title says, I'm a frustrated taxpayer. And I just want to first celebrate. Yeah, great. We gave backpacks away at the fair. I'm sure we gave a bunch of little toys and trinkets and everything. But did you guys give away any trips to New York? Did you guys give away any expensive luxury hotel stays? Did you guys give away any, chakra cleanings? No, you saved that for your ex superintendent and whoever here joined. So I just want to be clear. The email that was sent out celebrating the clean audit that we had. I just want to be honest. There is clear, undeniable evidence that Superintendent Rudolph misused the public funds, and you're all pretending like it's been resolved. It obviously hasn't. The February trip that I referenced, the one in February in 2024, is just a start. Like I said, luxury hotel stays for not only him, but 2 board members, 3 administrators, and a teacher. To this day, you guys won't release their names. That's not transparency like you guys said in your email. It's a cover-up. I don't know why you guys are hiding this. Anybody who was involved in that trip, which was an obvious misuse of my tax-paying funds, should resign right now. The audit may say that there wasn't sufficient evidence of fraud, but here's what we do have evidence of. $315,000 paid to an energy healer. Cigar lounge expenses labeled as food. Come on, that's crap. $2,500 a Guitar Center for a speaker. This is ridiculous. And now we also have a lawsuit alleging that students who were they're warehoused in special ed so we could generate more funds from the state. Ridiculous. Meanwhile, my daughter, who was in 5th grade last year, got told that 2 or 3 of her field trips that she had been looking for the entire year got canceled due to budgetary cuts. Ridiculous. Let that sink in. Her trip was canceled so you guys could go to New York on a BS trip and stay in Manhattan. How do you feel about that? So here are my questions. Who went on that trip? Who approved the healer? Why aren't all these missing receipts that Rudolph can't find? Why wasn't that a red flag then? Who let all of these charges slide? And why hasn't anyone been fired? Allende left with the golden parachute. He's fine. Why are you guys still have jobs? This board owes us names, receipts, and accountability, to echo what the last person said. I have zero trust, and the public has zero trust that you guys will hold yourselves accountable, because you have not held anybody accountable. We don't need any of this PR bullshit. Grow up.
Thank you, frustrated taxpayer. Okay, we will move on to item 8, action and discussion. First item is a discussion, FICMAT extraordinary audit findings.
Yeah, thank you. We want to welcome Dr. David Toston here from Santa Clara County Office of Education. He is our superintendent of schools in the county, and want to welcome you, new to the role as well. So he is here to share with us, as is required by law, the findings of the audit from FICMAT. So welcome, Dr. Toston.
Thank you. And President Lambert, trustees, superintendent, staff, community members, it's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. As was shared, I'm the county superintendent of schools, fulfilling statutory responsibility at the conclusion of the extraordinary audit by the fiscal crisis and assistant management team. And so I will cut to the chase. After a thorough review, FICMAT has determined that insufficient evidence exists to indicate that fraud, misappropriation of funds, and/or assets or other illegal fiscal practices may have occurred. And as such, as county superintendent, I have determined that this matter is closed. I would also want to acknowledge, and FICMAT shared this with us, the responsiveness of the current administration, community members, and past employees in terms of being forthright and providing documentation to complete the audit. And lastly, I want to also acknowledge Superintendent Bear and Dr. Westover for their proactive approach to strengthening areas of the system based on information learned through the audit. The county office will continue to play a supportive role over the coming months as the district continues to work to update any practices. Thank you. I'll pause there.
Thank you. So do I have any questions from the board? Trustee Conley.
I do. Superintendent Tustin, thank you so much for presenting to us this evening and for all the county's support of our school district in this matter. You know, it recently came to my attention, I didn't know this before, that in 2009, there was a grand jury discussion of the district that included as one of the items having credit card statements reviewed by, I think the recommendation there was the board president. And so this is something, credit card statements and travel reimbursements are a bit of a blind spot for boards across our state. I've talked to CSBA leadership. They don't have any policy specifically about those things, and they don't have that included in their current training, but I've requested that they do so. And my understanding from our board when I joined in 2018, it wasn't a practice and it wasn't discussed. So I don't know where between 2009 and 2018 it fell off. Is it possible for the County Office of Education to provide some training or a sample policy or protocol that could be available for districts that calls attention to things like credit card statements and travel reimbursements?
Thank you for your question. And as you stated, if CSBA doesn't currently have a policy, the county office wouldn't have one either. And also want to highlight California is a local control state. And so locally, if you determine the level of information that you need to achieve your responsibilities for effective governance, working with the administration to develop those. As a career-long educator and administrator. In matters like this, I think you may find trying to find the balance between efficiency, just given the number of actions that take place in the course of a month in a school district, and your ability to thoughtfully review them all and not have to go through reams of paper. And so the systems that I believe the team is putting in place will be able to hopefully provide a level of assurance around the processes that are being followed to avoid any areas of concern.
Thank you. I know we now make our credit card statements, for example, part of our consent agenda. So they are publicly disclosed, which is a change that we've made. But I have been telling every trustee I can find across the county, find out where your credit card statements are, find out where your reimbursements are, figure out a way for the public to be able to see them and review them. Because I think that that's a very important piece. Thank you.
So, do you have any recommendations based on your review, or have you discussed recommendations with Superintendent Bear?
There were some recommendations included in the reports that alluded to before that the administration has been working on. And so I wouldn't be able to provide any detail about those recommendations tonight. And anytime there's a review done, you will find, in my experience, some areas where you may be able to strengthen or update policies based on the information learned through the review process.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to, might be a good time for you to explain some of the steps?
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts. So we're pleased that the FICBAT audit resulted in no formal findings. And while we're encouraged by the outcome, we realize that the work doesn't stop here. As a district, we're committed to continuously improving, and we see this audit as a valuable opportunity to strengthen our systems and enhance how we serve our community. We've already made changes to our processes in the last year that will reinforce the integrity of our financial systems, and we'll continue to do that. Just as examples, Mountain View Wisdom has proactively begun work in these areas, developing written procedures and a procurement checklist for contract approvals. We see those every board meeting and have for some time. Implementing a more restrictive process and documentation for credit card use. You see the results of the credit card use. Internally, there's a pretty restrictive process to procure a credit card. And we've also adjusted financial delegated authority to allow more transparency in purchasing. And you'll hear about the summer purchases this meeting later on the agenda. We also began implementing additional financial controls last fall. There's a budget advisory committee in place. This was formed with representative members, including parents and staff, and the group works to provide financial transparency, foster understanding among stakeholders, and promote public participation in financial decision-making. Specifically, as you recall, they put forth a travel policy that the district adopted. The district also updated its contract process for selecting vendors and entering into contracts. These controls reduce the risk of favoritism or overpricing. And we have also, and this was before I got here, but reduced or eliminated $700,000 in non-essential, non-student related contracts. We don't take the community's trust lightly. My commitment to you is that we'll continue to work hard to provide reassurance to our community that we will handle resources responsibly and with transparency. The next step in this process, we need to respond within 15 days to the county, outlining the work that we have done and will be doing. Obviously, these things that I just shared with you will be included in that letter. I would ask from the trustees, are there additional areas that you want to see focus on or mentioned in our response?
Before we do that, I'd like to, have we finished with questions? I'll take public comment and then we can have a discussion. Okay, so I have two speakers in person who would like to speak, and I'll take hands for those online. I'll wait a moment. How many do I have? I see 3 speakers online. Okay, I will close accepting any more online speakers. Okay. We will first start with Mr. Granathan.
Good evening again. I'd love to have the podium back, by the way. I feel very exposed up here in the middle. So the FIGMAT report it's really deficient in many different ways. I don't have enough time to go through all of those, but I will write something up and send it to you. But let's talk about the conclusions. All that the conclusion tells us is that the board approved spending that happened under INDA doesn't meet a narrow technical definition of what they call fraud. Let's be clear, this report does not mean that the spending that happened was reasonable or appropriate. Let me remind you of some of the things that the board approved. $315,000 for guided meditation from a certified sound and energy healer at a cost of $1,200 per session for Rudolph and his leadership team. 9 years of executive coaching with Rudolph's friend for $40,000 a year, approximately. Over $1 million in private coaching for Rudolph and his top administrators. $384,000 in public relations to promote Rudolph and district leadership. A $50,000 boondoggle trip to New York City with 9 people staying at a 5-star luxury hotel, only to visit schools that were mostly closed for winter break. And 1 year in 2021, a $70,000 compensation increase for Rebecca Westover in a year when she was still needed to hire a consultant for $20,000 to help her do her job. Whether or not you call all of this fraud, none of it is reasonable. None of it is defensible. When I spoke with former Superintendent Skelly after the audit was announced, he told me that Rudolph and district leadership all kind of got fat at the trough. These are his words, not mine. This is not okay. This trough is our kids' educational money. Superintendent Bear, when you and I first talked, when we first met, you told me that what happened under Rudolph was not normal. I hope you remember those words. I truly hope you will not use this FICMAT report as an excuse to pretend that everything that happened was okay. What happened has caused lasting pain, division, and a loss of trust in this district. And that lack of trust will continue as long as the district pretends nothing happened and there's no accountability. Trustee Conley, you should resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Granathan. Next speaker is Mr. Former Trustee Steve Nelson.
Friends, staff, and trustees. My ears are just fine. You don't have to lend them to me. I come to praise Westfield, not to bury her. This responsibility for oversight rests with the board. That's what the board was elected for. And I would second what was said, just because it doesn't show malfeasance of an extent that would be done to the district attorney for criminal indictment, doesn't mean it was inappropriate. Inappropriate by, somebody said they didn't get who went there. It was 2 trustees, Berman and Blakely, that went. It's clear, the documentation will show who went besides the superintendent. And I think a couple of parents from somewhere in the district, but a personal trainer who had a private connection with the superintendent before the superintendent picked that private trainer to provide $300,000 worth of meditation. I have my purple energy here, right? It's near my heart. It's a good book stop, but it certainly isn't going to give me wellness. It might provide something when I'm interrupting somebody, pass the rock, be a great rock for that. You have to realize it was inappropriate the way it was spent. The leadership, particularly Devin Conley, who was in charge as president and collaborated with the other 2 presidents, contributed to this developing. That's why she's under recall, because people understand that Conley, working with Rudolph as the president, made a lot of problems, including all these fights with the city. That didn't come up, that wasn't audited. This is an audit of a narrow thing. It isn't the MAT part of FICMAT, which is the management assistance team. There are a lot of things that aren't done in this district, according to the things that FICMAT shows when they do a regular audit of trying to improve us. I urge you to spend $20,000 to use FICMAT in their MAT portion, which is management assistance team. That's what they're set up to do also. I'll send to you the examples in the reports where they talk about all the things about having budget and HR audited together. So because that's the biggest expense you're going to spend is personnel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Next speaker is Donay.
It's a very simple comment. I think that we can all see that there was misuse of public funds. But the fact that we have a government process called this FICMAT report to do an audit, and it still comes out to finding no fraud. This is the reason why the public doesn't trust government anymore and government institutions, right? We have government processes in place that just doesn't work. And when people look at it and use some common sense, it's like, this doesn't make sense. So I don't really know what else to say to fix that, but I just hope that our district can start to do better and, start rebuilding community trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll take online speakers. First, we'll have frustrated taxpayer.
So your guys is so proud of passing this audit. It reminds me of when Bush, back when we were back in Afghanistan, when he lined up a banner behind him saying mission accomplished. Hey, we did it, guys. Hey, we passed the audit, guys. We're okay. We didn't do anything wrong. Cool. No, you guys misused our funds. That's ridiculous. It's so obvious. And Connolly, you to say, hey, maybe are there any training courses that we can, take so that way we know not to book a luxury hotel when we go on an 8-night trip to New York? That's ridiculous. You're a child. Grow up. You really need a class to tell you not to book a luxury hotel? Do you really need a class to tell you not to spend $315,000 to clean your chakras or whatever crap you guys? Ridiculous. You don't need a class to do that. You need common sense. Grow up. Ridiculous. And then now you guys are going to pay for those classes that you guys can take. You're going to find some other person. Hey, we're going to cut this PO for $100,000 so we can learn not to misuse our funds. No. Grow up. You have zero trust in this community. Zero trust.
Okay, thank you, frustrated taxpayer. Next speaker will be Sean D.
Hello there, President Lambert. Good afternoon. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that comes off to me is audit, because if you do a simple search online and you're looking for red flags for anything for anti-kickbacks or anti-corruption, the Rudolph's relationships with these vendors hit nine of those 10 red flags. So the audit comes off as extremely lazy to me, because and if you look at the relationships between these vendors, it's very much like cartel type spending, right? Because they're consulting, vague terms, vague deliverables, overpriced services, and nobody knows exactly what these people are doing, and they're essentially no bid contracts, right? And so this flags it right away. But one of the things I'd like to make a simple request of Superintendent Baer, as the superintendent of the school, I'd like you to personally reach out to the questionable, the bars and the cigar lounges with your authority to request that point of sale receipts, those itemized receipts, to find out the credibility of Yendi Rudolph's interviews. Because that will issue credibility or non-credibility to what he's saying. I've looked up TG Cigar Bar in Washington, DC. I think the highest priced menu item is $26 there. So I believe you will find that he most likely lied in those interviews. And I think that would give reason to pursue possible criminal charges further. So I'd like to request a personal inquiry into the district credit cards with those locations. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean D. Next speaker will be Nung Lu.
Hi, trustee. Welcome back to the new school year. Thank you for taking my comment. So this is what's wrong with FigMac. FigMac only noted that once the auditor verified something that's an educational purpose, they do not further assess the value of the trip for the school district. So I think Dr. Rudolph was very clever in, adding, other people on these trips with him, or anything that he does, he add other people with him, make it like seem more reasonable. But like a lot of the commenters say, the expense is ridiculous. For instance, $3,000 for St. Regis, I think, in San Francisco. My friend works at Meta, and anytime this is like one of the biggest company in the world, $1 billion. Every time they have an event in San Francisco, they have to commute every morning. And then you know what they got reimbursed for? Their Caltrain tickets. Okay. And anytime that they book a hotel, they have to show that there's no cheaper hotel nearby, and it needs to be approved by a VP. So it's ridiculous that a school using taxpayer money would go to, to look at a school in Newark, a charter school, the uncommon charter school, because all the other school was closed during the time they were there. Newark, New Jersey, across the Hudson River. And they stay in Manhattan, like the most expensive hotel in Manhattan, $500 to $700 a night for 9 people and their families. And then somehow that seems to be okay. That cost seems reasonable. So I just hope that in the future, our board and, and our leadership are more reasonable with our taxpayer money and make sure the money goes to our student, go support the teachers. That's our front office. Those are our front office people. Those are the people that help our student, that those are the people that attract more student into our district. Regarding Trustee Conley asking, oh, she doesn't understand when this whole receipt thing, fell off. It's when Dr. Rudolph joined, because the previous superintendent Goldman used to go over these receipts very diligently with his executive assistant and have them prepare ahead of time so that he can go over to the board president. And Dr. Skelly joined, he was interim only for 6 months, so there was no credit card approved. And then after that is Dr. Rudolph. So that's where it fell off. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lu. I see one additional online speaker raised their hand, Mountain View Wisman School District parent. I'm not going to take you as a speaker because I closed the opportunity for public comment. Please send any comments to us in writing. We'll be sure to read them. Thank you very much. Okay, do I have any comments from the board? Trustee DeFazio?
All right, I'll jump in. Yeah, I want to thank Superintendent for coming and presenting. I think, and FICMAT for all their work, looking at all of the events that happened in the prior administration. It was really a useful and needed independent, transparent accounting of kind of what had occurred previously. Want to thank all the staff for cooperating and community members for pushing on this. I didn't serve with the previous superintendent, but I have seen a lot of the changes that we've been making over the past months in my term. I think I worked with Dr. Skelly, worked with now our interim superintendents, and now our permanent superintendent, and I think we've made a lot of strides to really improve our processes, right? And make sure that, you know, even though the audit ultimately did not find any evidence of fraud or anything illegal, it still, I think, highlighted to me our role as a board and the importance of our oversight and how we've been entrusted to make sure that every dollar is spent well and making sure that we're looking on this. One of the things that I think it reminded me was that engaging on the policy that we've done and engaging to make sure that we are fulfilling that fiduciary duty we have is something that we really need to keep paying attention to. Even though we've improved a lot of processes, we need to continue to push forward and make sure that we can really rebuild the trust with people in the community and make sure they know that illegal is not the bar that we are aiming for, right? We want to make sure that we are building that confidence from people. It's like legal and ethical standards that we have and that we hold ourselves to and that we want to demonstrate for our kids. As part of why I was so excited when I joined that we formed the policy committee that, I get to be the chair of, but Trustee Henry and I work on quite diligently together. Part of that has been reviewing policies, making sure we keep them up to date, making sure that we're thinking through critically how we want the board to behave in setting that oversight role. Yeah, I'm confident. I speak for myself. I think other folks will want to comment, but I'm confident that where we are now, I get up every day when I think about the work that we're doing on the board, and I'm making sure that we build the respect of the community. We build the confidence that we are taking every expenditure that Jeff and staff are doing and making sure that they are going to focus on the education for the kids in the community and make sure that people are, can be proud to send their kids to our schools. And I really think that's something that I value, and I'm confident that we all value here. Thanks. Kind of starting comments.
Trustee Henry?
And I, just to piggyback on that a little bit, I will also start by saying that I think that I know I personally, and I can't speak for anybody else, but I suspect it's a shared sentiment that a result that there's no fraud does not to me mean, oh, we're fine to go on exactly as before or even as we have been. I think there are a lot of cultural things in the district that have been changing, but are going to take a lot of work. I know that one of the reasons that Superintendent Bear was the right choice for this job and to lead this district for the next few years was to be able to rebuild a sense of trust and transparency and to bring a culture of feedback to the district, a place where people are expected to share their opinions and to not, to know that they are, that asking questions, that he knows that asking questions doesn't mean, isn't a problem for him. If you watched our last board retreat, he specifically talked about encouraging all of us to talk to staff, to be able to see their faces when they talk about what he's doing so that we can know how they really think about him, not expecting to be able to, needing to babysit that conversation. I think there are a lot of things that, as a member of the public a year ago and as a board member now, I can look back. I've read all of the public records requests. I've read all of the materials that have come out that they may, that are not things that are I'm excited to see, but they're also those things we can learn from them. The board before the three of us joined had already started to implement policies that are proving to be very important, posting the credit cards and their credit card statements and their receipts online. the travel policy, which we've seen implemented even with our own upcoming travel to Sacramento at the end of the year, which we approved in a public meeting in June. All of those things also, though, I think we all know we have to constantly examine them, see what's working, see what can be improved. We've already mentioned that the staff will be, bringing an opportunity for an agenda item sometime in the next couple of months to revisit our contracts, policies, our bids, kind of everything related to that. So it is a continuing process. It's not something that I think any of us think is done. It's something that we will constantly learn from, see what's working, what isn't working. And having all the policies in place is important, but also it's our role as our function of oversight to make sure that those policies are being followed. And I think that's something that I think we all take seriously and will be an important part as we move forward to make sure that both having the right policies in place and making sure they're implemented and followed.
I wanted to piggyback on something that Superintendent Bear said earlier about continuous improvement. I don't believe, and I'm speaking personally, but I don't believe anybody up here feels that because these findings came out the way they did, great, moving on. There was improvement happening and there will be continuous improvement moving forward. Even a conversation that I had just not even a couple hours ago with Dr. Westover about a specific process with an RFP. Even there, it was suggested, hey, if the board wishes, we could change that part of that process if it's something that we feel like needs to be added or changed. So that's still part of that. We have new processes in place, but we're still open to adjusting as necessary as we continue down the path of finding what's going to work best for us in trying to earn back that public trust. Something that several of us are also doing is trying to have a lot of face time and ear time with community members. We are trying to hear you. We're trying to ask questions in meaningful ways and trying to have conversations with staff in here in public to really dig deeper and not allow things to get to a level where there's so much public distrust. But this is one of those things where it's going to take a lot of time and rebuilding, and one or two decisions or one or two processes in place isn't going to immediately build public trust, and we understand that. So this is something that we're going to have to work towards by continuing to have conversations, continuing to be transparent, posting things on websites when we can, even things like providing more information than what we would normally see on a presentation and extending those meetings out. Those are things that will continue to happen so that we can rebuild the community and move forward.
Trustee Conley? Anybody need to say?
I'm gathering my thoughts.
I'd like to go last, if you don't mind.
President Lambert, I know we were on the former board together. And so I'm also interested in your thoughts.
My prerogative. Just go ahead.
So although the FICMAT audit had no findings, I can certainly understand why members of the community are upset and angry, because we all hold our district to a higher standard. That is why last year, the former board canceled contracts of concern, created a new vendor approval process, and supported establishing a budget advisory committee before we had even brought in a new interim superintendent. We adopted a new travel policy recommended by that budget advisory committee, and we added things like credit card statements to our consent agenda. We are going to continue to raise the standard of the Mountain View Isthmus School District, both in terms of how we spend taxpayer money and how we raise the standards for our students. We are always going to look at areas where we can improve how we use our resources. And with the information from this audit, we can continue to make sure that we work for the benefit of our students, our community, and our taxpayers.
Okay. And I would like to make a statement. So to some extent, I'm a thread that goes through all this process. I was on the board from 2012 to 2016, and in 2015, we hired Dr. Rudolph. Although I was off the board from 2016 to 2022, I remained very much involved with school district matters, serving on task forces, and then eventually joined the board again in 2022. I've said this before at board meetings, but one thing that's just sort of amazed me about this school district is that at the time I left the board in 2016, we were a $40 million school district. We were just coming into becoming a basic aid school district. You know, this year we're starting out as a $130 million school district. And during that 10-year period, the community also passed 2 bond measures totaling about $450 million. We had a lot of money during that time. And I think one of the problems, this is a foundational sort of issue that I think created this and this problem that we're addressing with the FitMac report. But overall is that our financial operations were geared for a $40 million school district and not to address all of these expenditures that we're seeing today. You know, what we have failed to do is to I think, put in professional accounting procedures. We've certainly failed to put in professional oversight of some of the bond issues. And, you know, teacher housing is a case in point where, you know, during the last 6 months, as the board, the superintendent, and the staff have worked closely to complete a solution that will put the teacher housing project on a sound financial footing and protect the district's general fund. You know, and in a little while, we'll be interviewing candidates to serve on a nonprofit board that will consist of real estate and financial professionals. But we should have been doing this all along, and initially when we started looking at the teacher housing project. Same goes for the internal controls that we're addressing with this FitMac report. You know, the board bylaws say that as a board, one of the major responsibilities we have is to ensure accountability to the public for the performance of the district schools by monitoring and adjusting district financing. As to the financial matters the auditors have presented this evening, as a board member, it is my responsibility to ensure that our financial processes are complete, accurate, and timely, and that expenditures are consistent with our educational goals. It is also important that our processes enable the district to focus on the business of education. In my opinion, the board accomplishes this by modeling and supporting a culture of transparency and trust. And the board, superintendent, and staff must work collaboratively and closely together to make certain that this happens. We should be helping each other make the best decisions for the Mountain View School District to advance the education of our children. I acknowledge that during the first 2 years of my term as trustee, beginning in 2022, as shown by the several financial decisions made during the past several years and identified in the FitMac report, some of which are I have failed to fulfill my responsibility as a fiduciary to the Mountain View School District. Going forward, I am committed to work with the other board members, the superintendent, and the staff to ensure that there is effective, meaningful, and transparent oversight of the district's finances. I thank you, the community, for your patience and support as the Mountain View School District goes through this time of transition. Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, with that, we will move on to the next item. Item 8B, Mountain View Wisman Residences Corporation Board interviews. So would you like to introduce this, Superintendent Bear?
Just a quick thank you to Dr. Toston.
Thank you.
Yes, so just giving an overview of where we're headed. Uh, the board has established the MVW Residences, a nonprofit, to steer and oversee that project. Part of that is going to be seating a number of members of that board. And so we're going to begin that process tonight of interviewing. Just to give you foreshadowing into the next meetings, we have 4 candidates that we will be interviewing this evening. We have another 2. One's currently lined up, and we're working on the second that you will interview on September 4. And then we will look to give you that time to think about, consider their responses, review their resumes and such, and then make a final decision on September 18th. Okay. And so with that, we'd like to welcome Kyle Deshawn, who's our first candidate. So welcome.
Okay, just so we're all on the same page here, we have 3 questions, and the proposal is to have the interviewees answer each of these
Each one.
questions. Okay.
And might I suggest just moving down consecutively, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Sure.
A suggestion.
And okay. We have next speakers at 8:30, so we have a little bit of time. We don't have to rush.
Okay,
So welcome, Mr. Deshawn.
correct, yep.
Okay. Honestly, before we ask questions, could you just introduce yourself real quick? We all have your resume, so.
Yeah. Well, good evening, good night, I guess, everyone. I'm Kyle Deshawn, happy to be here tonight and to interview. I work for Sayers Regis. We're a developer here in the Bay Area, and excited to talk to you about the project at the Sevens and the housing over there.
Okay, great. Okay, well, I'll start the first question, then we'll move down. Why are you interested in serving on this board?
Yeah, why am I interested in serving on the board? Yeah, I'm interested in the mission. I believe in the mission, and I think I have the background and the experience to make a positive impact and to help make it as successful as it can be. I think everybody should have the opportunity to live in the community that they work in or that they serve, if they so desire. On a personal note, my mother-in-law was a public school teacher in Southern California for 20 plus years. My wife got to grow up in the town that her mother taught in, got to attend the school that her mom taught in. And so I've seen firsthand kind of the positive impact that made, and would love to see what I can do to make as big of an impact, as positive an impact here.
Trustee DeFazio?
Okay. Do you have any special area of expertise or experience that you think would be helpful to the MVW Residences corporate board?
Yeah, any kind of relevant experience. Well, I work for a developer here in the Bay Area that works from San Francisco to San Jose and really does all things housing. So for rent and for sale housing. At Sayers Regis is the company. I do the financial modeling for new acquisitions, for new deals we're looking at, but I think most relevant to here, I do asset management on our operating portfolio. So I oversee a portfolio of about 1,400 units, all in the Bay Area. It's market rate and affordable. We have a 100% affordable project in downtown San Jose that I work on. And then also familiar with Mountain View proper. We have a project on Shoreline Boulevard, familiar with, that I've worked on. I've toured the market rate side of the Sevens as part of that project. And then I would also add, the company I work for has been very active in Mountain View for 30 plus years and has a pretty depth pool of knowledge that I think I could be able to tap into. And I think that could be a valuable piece as well.
And then as a third question, please describe how well you've worked with others on other committees and boards.
How well I worked with others on other committees or boards. The only other kind of, I'll say governmental, quasi-governmental committee I'm on is in San Mateo. It's the San Mateo San Mateo Rail Corridor Transportation Management Association, which besides being an absolute mouthful of a name, is a collection of property owners that work together, work with the city, work with an educational institution right there to look at the impact that we have on traffic in the area, do annual studies, see what mitigations we can put together, put together annual reports. And I've been on that for about 2 years. Outside of that, outside the kind of governmental, quasi-governmental realm, active in the Urban Land Institute, which is a professional organization in the real estate industry, where myself and 2 other folks have been running the new member kind of provisional onboarding process for the under 35 cohort. I've been doing that for about 2 years. We bring 10 to 15 new folks in every year and go through about 9 months of programming for that. So I've been working together to help run that for about 2 years.
Great. Unfortunately, that is all the questions we have for you. I'd invite you to make a final statement. It's pretty easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll just kind of recap what I said on the intro, but, thank you all for the opportunity tonight to get to meet everybody, to kind of explain my background and why I'm interested. Would love to have the opportunity to help out here and do what I can to make a positive impact. I know it sounds a little corny, but I do believe in the mission. I think it's important. And, I think I have some background, some expertise, some skills that could help make a positive impact and make this a success, and would love the opportunity to do so.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks. Very quick.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cal. So we're next.
Is Maris Oda here?
She is here. She'll be right in.
She'll be right in. Okay.
Shelley's going to grab her.
Yeah. You'll probably go on for half hour asking questions, but this is short. That's how we.
It's helpful. We have all their background materials too, so that's very helpful as well.
Just never got that. Hi. So thank you for coming tonight. We have plenty of time, so there's no need to rush through your answers or anything like that. So we have 3 questions for you that we're asking all of the candidates, and we'll let you make a closing statement. And first off, please, we have your resume, but please introduce yourself.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Maris Ota. I grew up in Hawaii with 2 parents, public educators as teachers. So I have a soft spot in my heart for all things related to education, especially public education. I've spent the last 20 years in the Bay Area, which I now call home. And professionally, I do real estate development. And I've also had purview into investments and operations on the real estate side. Personally, I have other soft spots in my heart for affordable housing, having lived in rent-controlled housing for many years, and just community involvement. So for the past 10 years, I have volunteered on the board of HIP Housing, which serves San Mateo County exclusively, and have held executive roles on that board, including most recently as president of that. I'm excited to talk with you about this opportunity today.
Great, thank you very much. Trustee Reed, why don't you start off?
First question we have for you is, why are you interested in serving on this board?
Yes, like I mentioned, I grew up with community service kind of just as part of our family ethos, and believe in giving back to my community whenever possible. And I would love to be able to deploy the skills that I've accumulated in both my professional and personal lives to be able to help the school district, which I care deeply about.
Thank you. So our second question is, and you've addressed some of this already, but you can call it out again. Do you have any special area of expertise or experience that you think would be helpful to the Mountain View Wisman Residences Corporate Board?
For the question. Yes, I think both my professional expertise in real estate development, investment, and operations could be something that I draw upon for this role, as well as my personal experience from volunteering on a nonprofit board.
Okay, thank you. Last question. Please describe how well you have worked with others on other committees and boards.
Maybe you should ask them. Yeah, I think a lot of the work that I've done has been collaborative in that respect. And, you know, the ideas have oftentimes been diverse, but I think that leads to the best outcomes for the organization because it does consider broad options and lets the best options rise to the top.
Okay, thank you. So that's very short. This is all we have.
Okay.
But, you know, please make, you know, any final comments you'd like to make. But you don't.
I just want to say thank you for the time to meet in person. I think there's a lot of value in that and wish you the best of luck in the process.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's like, don't smell.
We could take a short break if we need.
Yeah, for break, be good. Board will take a 10-minute break. Okay, we are resuming open session again, or board meeting again at 8:30. Right now, we're waiting for the third interviewee. Yes. Okay.
Sure.
So we have Stephanie Schiffer?
Stephanie Shipe.
Shipe, okay, there we go. Leave it to me, I get it wrong. So we're gonna ask you 3 questions. We have plenty of time, so there's no need to rush.
Okay.
Really, it'll go pretty fast. But why don't we have your resume, we've read your resume. Just start off by introducing yourself, please.
Okay. My name is Stephanie Shipe. I currently work at Alta Housing as the Vice President of Programs and Operations. Yes, that's right. Sorry, that title just changed. I've been working with Alta Housing, which is based right in Palo Alto for the past 2.5 years. Prior to that, I had worked at the City of Alameda Housing Authority. And funny enough, prior to getting hired there, I had actually served on their board for almost 2 years as well. But I've been working in the housing industry for, I was just doing the math the other day, but about 20 years, and affordable housing for the past 15. But I did start out in market rate housing. And that's where I just cut my teeth. And then I kind of dipped into affordable, and I just feel like it's given me a nice baseline. You know, I feel like I have a good understanding of large areas. I also work for private and also the public side of things. So yeah, that's very general, high level, but
No, that's great, thank you. So trustee DeFazio is going to start off with the questions.
Yes, so why are you interested in serving on this board?
well, I think that the project to me sounds very interesting. Like obviously I'm passionate about housing and people being able to afford to live in the communities that they work in. I will say I actually do commute from Oakland into Palo Alto. I love my job. So to me that yes, I love it, but I have a passion for it. I love the thought of being able to provide housing to people that work in an area. That mission resonates a lot with me. We do it within our own agency with our current staff, right? To the levels that we can. And I think that this project is unique in the AMI levels, because I think once you get a really good understanding of what affordable housing is and how do you come up with the rents on that, those rents end up getting way up there and everybody's like, oh, great, affordable housing. Now you're competitive with market, right? And so how do you balance still being able to provide something that's affordable to the people that you're looking to serve? There's always like looking to balance the budget and making sure that the property stays operable, right? There's a fine balance there. So all of that, it's in my bailiwick, and yeah, I'm excited about it.
Thank you. I think this will give you a chance to expand on some things. Do you have any special area of expertise or experience that you think would be helpful to the MVW Residences Corporation Board?
I think it's a lot of what I just explained, having the prior experience of working in market rate housing and what does it look like on going out and marketing to the community that you're trying to get to move in. I feel like that is to me, I feel like is a huge asset. And most of the time when you're dealing with higher AMIs or even market rate, your conventional loans are much higher, right? And so that is a lot of what justifies higher rents, because you're like, I still have bills to pay. And affordable housing, you know, and now we have this affordable housing piece. So I'm very familiar with compliance and what annual recertifications mean, and how to make sure that you're staying in compliance with those regulations. Also very important, because if you want to continue to build other housing, we want to make sure we're being good partners to the people who are giving us money in order to allow us to build additional housing.
And our third and final question for tonight. Please describe how well you have worked with others on committees and boards.
So I did work at the City of Alameda Housing Authority. I was on their board for a period of time. And, you know, I don't know how all of you ended up being linked in with the board, but I was working for FPI Management, a third-party management company at the Santa Clara, and I helped oversee some of the Santa Clara Housing Authority properties. And then the lady Vanessa Cooper was there as the deputy. She was leaving to go, and I was like, I live in Alameda, and she was like, I really need somebody on a board. Are you interested? And you know, I think that just goes to show. And then once I became onto the board, they tend to be pretty friendly. I like to work well with people. I like to look at new ideas and be innovative, and how do we have really collaborative conversations. And so then I happened to be the go-to and was like, hey, Stephanie, I got to go talk to the city mayor. Will you come with me? And a lot of my career, obviously, as I've continued to grow, I worked at MidPenn for, you know, a significant amount of time, and they work through communities across Northern California, right? And so a lot of times that is not just working with the community and doing community meetings, not just with the apartment, but the surrounding neighbors, and having those conversations, but also with board members and councilmen and supervisors, and as well as vendors and everybody else, right? So a lot of my job in life is talking to people, and it's a good thing. I like people, so it makes it a little easy.
Okay, thank you. So that ends our questions, and, you know, I'll leave it to you to make some closing comments and, you know, anything else you want to tell us about yourself.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for having me here. I was really interested as the opportunity had presented itself to me. And I hadn't been on a board for a period of time. You know, life changes along the way. And I just thought that's a very unique opportunity where I can bring my skills and my experience that I have gathered, and maybe be able to help provide some new ideas and collaboration on this board. So it was it's an exciting opportunity. So I'm happy to be here. And I know you guys will have fun decisions. I don't know how many people are on your roster, but I know. Anyways, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming down here, and have a safe trip back to Oakland, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a night away.
Yeah,
So
right. You love your job, so,
that's
right?
right. I do love my job. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, so those are the interviews for this evening. Like I said, we'll have one or two more next week, and then on September 18th, we will have some you will have some deliberation and make a selection or set of selections.
Okay, we'll move on to the agenda. Item 8C, this is an action item, summer review approval of monthly reports, ratifying some contracts
My apologies.
and
Did we take,
reviewing others. Excuse me?
President Lambert, did we take public comment on the last
Yeah,
item?
we probably should take a public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak on this, excuse me, on the previous item, the Residents Corporation interviews? Not seeing any, and I don't see anyone online. Okay, we'll move on to item 8C. Superintendent Bear, will you introduce this?
Yes, I'll turn it over to Dr. Westover for the review of our summer spending. We thought it was important since there was some conversation leading into the summer about delegated authority that we do a follow-up here and let the board know what transpired over the summer months.
So this evening, we have a short presentation on some of the contracts that we entered into over the summer. There's also a slightly updated format for how we're presenting the contracts tonight. So if you look at the backup material, you'll notice that the contracts are all listed out. And also on the far right-hand side, it indicates if the contract was entered into based on the authority given to the superintendent. And then happy to answer any questions that you have about some of those contracts if you have them.
So, any questions from the trustees? Trustee Henry? Oh, you do have a presentation, okay.
No worries. I'll skip through the strategic plan. I wanted to revisit the delegated authority resolution. So prior to summer, the board gave delegated authority to the temporary delegated authority to the superintendent in order to allow us to continue operations during the summer, to make sure if we had a leak that we were able to fix it, order instructional materials and things of that nature. And again, all of these things, all of the contracts under this delegation are brought to the board for ratification. So that's what we're doing tonight. So why do we have summer delegated authority? Many contracts and purchases are time sensitive for summer operations. So in the contract list today and part of our PO report, you'll see PG&E, elevator permits, as well as some electrical items in there. And it also prevents service delays. So an example of what's in the list tonight is also our regular bus maintenance. So if we had not been able to conduct the bus maintenance over the summer, we would not be picking up the students on the first day of school, as well as curriculum purchases. We wanted to talk a little bit about contracts in general. Part of this is wanting to make sure that we're providing as much information as possible and to put things in perspective. So sometimes we are asked, why do we have so many contracts within the district? So if you look at our overall budget for the 25-26 year, contracts made up about 13% of our budget. It's important also to understand, what are these contracts doing? Because contracts is a big term that covers lots of different things. Contracts can be anything from a software license to a gardener that we contract in to help us with irrigation. So when we look at the breakdown of contracts by function, so SACS coding is how we track all of our information, or every single dollar that flows through the district is tracked by a 35-digit code. Function tells us, what is this contract doing? So if you look at the light orange, this is for direct instruction, instructional supervision, and miscellaneous pupil services. The majority of these contracts, so you'll see several of them that are in the millions. They're providing support in the classrooms, instructional assistants, OT, PT. These are for positions that we were not able to hire within the district, so we have a contract to fill this role. It also serves an important function because when an IEP is written, sometimes once that IEP is signed, we need to enact and have that individual ready for the student. So sometimes these contracts also help us provide services immediately. Next down, we have district-wide miscellaneous, fiscal services, HR, tech, human resources. Within that next color includes fingerprints for our staff. And then the next one is routine maintenance and operations. So then we further broke it down. So what is in that district-wide miscellaneous contracts? This includes legal, crossing guards, advertisement, fingerprinting, consultants for specialized tasks, and licensing agreements, and it makes up about 1% of our budget. I mentioned this earlier, but the contract list format, so it lists the department responsible for the contract vendor, and then we have the description and cost. This list comes to the board every month and is based on the business of the district. And then again, on the right-hand side is a column that shows if this is being brought as part of regular business or entered into because of the summer delegated authority. So this is an example in the format. I'll skip through this since we just talked through it. And then a little discussion about what is a purchase order report. So a PO report is a record of all the POs or contracts. So the term PO and contract can be used interchangeably, that the district has issued within a specific time period, and it's the formal authorization to buy goods or services which specifies what's being purchased. So it shows who the district is buying from, a description of what's purchased, the total amount of the PO, and when it was issued. There will be some duplication of when you approve a contract, the next time you'll see a PO come through for that same amount and that same vendor, because once you approve the contract, we issue a PO and let the vendor know now it's open and we're starting our business together. Many of the purchases are routine and fall under previously approved budgets. The board reviews and approves the PO report to formally ratify the district's purchasing activity, and the report is provided once a month during the school year. So this is an example of the PO report. What we did this time is in the PO report, we write if it was board approved, when it was board approved. So you can see the items that were previously board approved and which ones were part of our regular business during the summer. Again, another screenshot indicating approved vendor curriculum or on the current board meeting agenda. The next question is, what is a warrant report? Because you have two reports that are on your agenda right now. A warrant report is a public record of a payment the district has made to vendors, employees, or other entities during a specific time period. So you will have a overall PO, and that PO can be paid on multiple times because we will pay a vendor monthly based on their services sometimes. So the PO gives you the total amount, and then the warrant report sometimes will kind of eat away at that PO over time. So a warrant is the district's check or electronic payment issued to settle an approved an expense. So on the slide shows, what the warrant report shows. This is an example of the warrant report. So again, you'll see kind of duplications. You'll see the PO, the contract, and then the warrant. And what is a purchase order change order? So there's an Excel sheet that's also uploaded typically that we call it a POCO that shows a record of changes to purchasing commitments. So this occurs when there's a cost increase or something has changed where we need to change the total PO amount. And so it helps us, it helps you see what has changed over time. This is what an example of a POCO report. So you can see the original, the vendor name, the original purchase number, previous total, and the PO change amount, and a short description for why we have the change order. Something important to note is a change order isn't necessarily a bad thing. So we ask for a rationale for why the change. Our goal is to get our POs as close to the actual amount as possible. So in the beginning of the year, a school principal has to make an estimate. How much copying are you going to do? Well, 5 months goes by and now they have a better idea of how much copying they're going to do, and they may reduce their PO or they may increase it based on the needs of what the teachers have been doing. So this is just an indication there's a change that's occurring. Any questions? I think something also that's important to share a little bit about how our school district budget works is our flexibility and the needs of what's happening at the sites. So when you see that POCO report, it's not necessarily that something had, somebody misestimated. It's that the kids are using it or they're not utilizing it as much. So we'll see those shifts in the POCO report, and we want people to estimate closely, because if their estimate is off, then it means our budgets kind of move a little bit. So a POCO report is actually a positive thing because people are monitoring where they are and what they're spending.
Yeah, so I had a question. I noticed some of these contracts were for repair work.
Yes.
Actually, quite a few of them, so it added up.
Yes.
So I was curious about where the money comes from to do this. Is this general fund money or is it actually through Measure T, facilities money, bond money?
The majority of them are general fund money.
Could you ever transfer those to a bond, or is that appropriate to do? I mean, we repair roofs, we repair plumbing.
Right. So routine maintenance really should be from the general fund. The capital facility projects can be under Measure T. So if we have a larger issue where we know it's going to be a project, it would be appropriate under Measure T. But we're also mindful of kind of what is on that Measure T list that the board had approved as projects. Typically, that's kind of our litmus test of like, would this fall under Measure T or is this a routine maintenance piece?
Yeah. Thank you. Trustee Henry?
Kind of a similar vein question, I guess, in some ways. As far as telling, I know that part of our budget comes from a donation from money raised from MVEF, right? So for example, I was wondering how would I know, for example, if that is coming, where kind of the source of the money? Is that can I tell from the SACS coding, an example would be I was curious about the 2 Green Sport Association contracts for officials for sports. I was wondering if that is MVF funding, if that's,
So you can tell from the SACS coding. We have a kind of cheat sheet that we posted online that tells you what you can look at for like the function of what is it doing, but to know if it's because it's coming from our middle schools, you would look at the program number, and that would tell you if it was MVF paid for or not. Yep.
Any more questions? Okay, I will take public comment now. Let's see, I have 2 cards from members of the public. I have 1 speaker online. And I'm waiting for anyone else online for a moment to raise their hand. Okay, I will close taking any more speakers and I will begin with the in-person comments. Former trustee Steve Nelson.
Thank you. Dr. Lambert, Esquire. Delegated summer authority is an anachronism. The whole truth, Dr. Westover, is that telemeetings are possible and did happen throughout the summer. I saw you guys on some. I came here when there was a meeting with Conley was off in Colorado somewhere. So this part of the education code that maybe was set up 100 years ago, for all we know, at the time when people took vacations in the summer, and the clerk, if you notice, one of the things the education code says about the clerk is that the clerk can look over the properties of the school district during the summer when school's out. It's not really used, I think, maybe then 1 or 2 little one-room schoolhouses. But you don't take trains or ocean liners that you can't somehow use their satellite system. You could be on the Queen Mary in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and participate in a summer meeting that was brought up for whatever reasons they were brought up. So delegating authority, remember, you are the guys that have the responsibility. You're delegating authority that is given to you. And there's plenty of authority that's given to you as a LEA that isn't given to a county board. There's a vast difference between what a county superintendent's powers are and what your powers are. The superintendent and the chief financial officer only have the power that you delegate to them. And I think you might notice the question of who's been delegated power in the federal government is a big problem. When you delegate power, you don't have control. If these things were added as they came up during the middle of the summer, they could have easily been handled while you were looking at them. Instead, you get them plopped at the end when some of these have exactly, I don't know how contract law works here. What stuff is the ones that superintendent signed off and they're done and finished and you can't really question? So it's a good theory. It's an anachronism of the time when trustees didn't have cell phones. It's probably a time when there were rotary phones, which I grew up with. You know, you had the little dial that goes around. There was no such things as any big satellite phones. So I think you shouldn't do this. At the beginning of the summer, I told you I thought you shouldn't do this. And I still think there is no reason to delegate this authority. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Next, we'll have Ms. Wong.
I'm here to comment on the contract with regards to the Kinder Hour vendor. I'm a volunteer for a site's parent-paid after-school classes, and after collecting feedback from our community, I reached out to the district office for help because the current high facilities rent fee made it prohibitively expensive to have a quality, affordable outdoor sports and game Kinder Hour class. Long story short, after working with the district office and going along with what I believe was an unnecessary RFP process, we still ended up with a program that is too expensive and really feels like price gouging by a monopoly. But it gets worse. The district office selected a program that is not local, costs are 60% more than local options, and has a bad reputation, okay? Poor reviews on Yelp and Google. You can see the fact sheet on there that I delivered earlier. How did they even score this high, given that community feedback has always been local, affordable, and reputable vendors? The program with the second highest score didn't even meet the primary requirement of an outdoor sports activity. Moreover, we had this vendor on our campus already, and due to poor community feedback, we chose not to bring them back. After looking at the response to trustee comments, it is clear to me now why these vendors were chosen. We have a rubric that is only good at measuring how good a vendor is at writing an RFP, not if it's actually a good program. As a parent, knowing that we have better, affordable local options, I have to follow my conscience and ethically say I just cannot support this vendor. When fellow elementary school parents look at this program profile, and the first comments are, did they get a kickback and how does this stuff get approved? This is not a good look, and I don't want to be associated with this. Honestly, I'm just really sad because if the district actually followed existing processes and listened to community feedback, this could have been an easy win. In this process, even with Rudolph gone, it very much felt like he's still in the building. Trustees, I ask you to help, please do the right thing here and help our families access an affordable, local, reputable program, not one that can just write good RFPs. Let's ensure community concerns are addressed and processes are followed. I would prefer we start fresh, but at this point, at the minimum, this vendor needs to match the $20 per class bid from our local providers. Moving forward for 2026, we need to reevaluate, maybe do a site-based pilot, find local, reputable, affordable provider, or allow site control to select their preferred provider like we do for every other school after-school class. I'm hopeful that we have a path forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wong. Next, we have an online speaker, Mountain View Wisman MVWSD parent.
Hi, I share former trustees Nelson concern about delegating authority. And in following up with the last speaker's comment, I do hear some messages that are reverberating here tonight. This district now has a years-long history of 1, not following set processes, 2, not listening or not hearing the community, and 3, with the possible exception of President Lambert tonight, not accepting accountability or not holding the right persons accountable when they don't listen to the community or don't follow set processes. So I've seen some small steps, and I want to thank you. Thank you for the new table format on these contracts. But what I've heard tonight is a lot of reimagining history and giving each other thanks for the new processes. But what I actually see, what do I see? I see summer contracts. I see a 6-figure sole source contract for Silicon Valley Performance that provides no explanation as to why they're the only possible provider. I saw earlier a $750,000 leaseback agreement that no one on the board was able to explain to me. I see a board member who couldn't spend 5 to 10 minutes on the phone before this meeting to talk to me. So I am very concerned about, the rewriting of history and saying that things are all great now that we have these new processes in place. In 2009, we thought we had new processes in place when the grand jury, as President Conley pointed out, found that there was a potential for abuse when the superintendent subordinates were approving credit card transactions. Mountain View Wisman's response then was, we agree, it's advisable for the superintendent to submit monthly credit card statements directly to the Board of Trustees for approval. In the Mountain View Wisman School District, the president of the Board of Trustees and the district's chief financial officer reviews the superintendent's credit card statements on a monthly basis prior to payment of that statement. If we had only followed our set procedure, we wouldn't have had the, financial credit card disaster that we had in the last year. The history goes on, the grand jury report goes on. In fact, the grand jury report also mentions inventory, and it states that there's a scope of the inventory tracking fixed asset module of the Santa Clara County Office of Education should be used. And all district superintendents, chancellors, and district staff should report incomplete inventory information to their boards. I have asked our district to provide a presentation on inventory. I'm still waiting for that to come forth. So let's actually follow our set procedures. Thanks.
Okay, excuse me. Thank you, Mountain View Westman School District parent. Okay, bring it back to the board. Do we have any comments? And if not, go ahead, Trustee DeFazio.
So I do, for at least the TK Kinder Hour, I do appreciate that we are doing an RFP procedure, because I think that actually allows us to get a holistic view of what programs do. For this particular year, I think I would like to understand and kind of think through, we're onboarding a new program into the district. What are kind of the general success metrics we want to put together to say, are people satisfied with the program? Is it functioning well? So that the next school year when we're doing this, right, we have a good sense of what we are looking for as a community, right? Because ultimately, we on the board here are elected as representatives of the communities, and to work in those interests. I'd like to hear from individual school sites how they are feeling about the program, and whether, say, for parents that are choosing to use the program, are they satisfied? How are they feeling about it? And then similarly, for parents that are not choosing and choosing other options, what makes them not want to come to this, right? I think this is a useful thing for us to get feedback as these programs evolve. I think that takes some thought from us, and then, come summer next year, we can think through if we want to continue the same vendor or whatnot.
Trustee Conley?
May I ask, I think we surveyed in the past our after school, the families who have participated in our after school programs at the end of the year. I think they, the programs themselves survey internally. Do we do a survey as well?
It depends what after-school program we're talking about. A lot of the after-school programs rent from us. They are not sponsored by the district, so we don't do any of the surveys.
I was thinking Right at School and YMCA.
And we need to double check with Director Chang. I know that they did some outreach. I'm not specifically sure of which it is.
I support the idea and I defer to Superintendent Bear in terms of what's feasible, but actually trying to gather feedback on how the program plays out. I also was wondering, Superintendent Bear, if you could speak to a little bit who evaluated the rubric and how that decision was made.
Yeah, Dr. Westover can speak in more detail, but it was 3 of our staff who have experience with after-school programming, right? That is what they do for our district. Well, Mr. Chang doesn't any longer, but he has certainly spent many years doing that. So there were 3 people.
And then what is the feasibility of doing some sort of survey or metric or some piece like that to see how this program is going?
Yeah, that's always feasible. Sure.
I guess also on that same contract, and I guess these are questions, but I was curious as I was looking at the contracts and just the actual sign up process online. I know that this initiative was brought by a community member at a specific school site, but I see that it's available in 1 to 4 days at every school site being offered. I was curious if there was a possible just one site pilot considered to see how it went. And then separately, one thing I didn't see in the contract, I was curious, what are the minimums to make these especially since these are signups on a day by day basis, you sign up for all 14 Mondays, you sign up for, what does this particular vendor require to go ahead with it?
This particular vendor has shared that they're willing to operate at a loss in order to get the program started. So they don't have a minimum to get started. I think that was the totality of the question.
And then just one other on the RFP ratings, cost efficiency and sustainability is a 10-point item out of 100. I obviously very much care about things like program quality and safety and supervision. But it does feel like a lot of the public comment that we're getting has to do with the pricing, the 32 per class for that 80-hour class versus, kind of one of the other proposals had a lower amount. I just didn't know if anybody could speak to the weighting of cost versus other things in the evaluation.
Sure. Honestly, this was our first pass at doing an RFP for an after-school program where we were having a new district partner. The RFP by no means is perfect, but we wanted to do an RFP to make the process fair, transparent, competitive. This RFP went out to everyone that has ever ran a program in our district. So through Facilitron, probably about 100 different vendors. So everyone had an invitation. It was posted on our website. The purpose was really to create a level playing field. And part of that process is the RFP and the scoring. Every vendor who, so really the intent was to try to create a fair process. But what we are hearing from the community right now is that the price is something that is very important to them. And that can always be adjusted in our RFP moving forward. I think something important to note that neither Bald Eagle or Cassier was the cheapest option available. We had others that had proposed, but because the overall program wasn't scored as highly, they were not, selected. And of course, we will evaluate things as we go. At no point with the district do we keep something that is not working for our students or our community. So as we move forward, this is going to be a constant iterative process if something is not working for the students.
Yeah, I think like for the breakdown, I think it's probably worth I don't know if we want to get deeply involved here, but give maybe direction to staff later on future iterations of what are important components of this in the scoring for our community, right? Like that's part of our responsibility. I think like you said, I would not start down ranking safety or, like things like that. We may want to raise affordability possibly, but also I think there's an important thing for looking at a holistic program because someone may pitch on an extremely cheap option but provide us low quality services, right? And so we need to strike that balance for our students so that they have a great experience and that they can go forward with this. I also honestly think that the important part of completing the RF, like the last one that's 10 points there is reasonably important because I view some of these things about following process and being able to communicate to us directions of how they're intending to fill out the need we have is, kind of in some sense the green M&M test for us is like, if I can't trust you to fill out the forms to apply for our program, like how do I know that anything there is going to be actually delivered on site there? So I think I do appreciate having weight for that as well, but there's probably just general feedback and feelings on the scoring here. Yeah.
I don't know how much our role is to shape an RFP at this level or not, but I also think this was a very quick turnaround, right? So the ask came in, if I recall, like in June, or maybe earlier than June, in the spring. I'm sorry, I don't know that. Can I ask a question of the public member? Yes, when did? Oh,
Yes.
Dr. Westover.
Yes.
When did the ask come in?
End of the school year. I can look up the data. Give me a second in my email.
Okay. To turn around an RFP for a provider that we haven't, for a program that we've never covered before, this is a unique for the district. I guess the RFP process sounds like it was a short turnaround for developing the RFP and getting it out. And maybe in future RFPs, if they are district-wide or more substantive, and I'm not saying this isn't substantive, I think this would be one that would probably fall in that bucket, that there would be a chance maybe for us to review them and consent or in a board update of some sort to be able to offer feedback. I don't know that was feasible with this, given the timeline. for when the RFP went out over the summer, um, but Superintendent Bear, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
So we, we as a staff operate on board direction, right? And there has been because of previous behaviors that have occurred, an RFP process is important. Handpicking a vendor from the community. We just got through talking about an audit where that was a big concern about particular vendors just being picked. And so I think an RFP is a really important process that we do. I mean, open to board thoughts and guidance, but I'll say that's a slippery slope. I'm not sure where how far that goes, right?
It's that policy versus implementation piece. And so maybe as a board, maybe what we could do is talk about our RFP process for discretionary contracts like this, if that makes sense, in a little more detail. And that's where we could give you feedback about how we'd like to see it structured.
Yeah,
Trustee DeFazio?
Yes, and I think generally, right, like I'm thinking more broad contours of priorities and things that we think are important and may carry more weight than others. I'm not getting to the detail of like, this should be 2 points, this should be 3 points, right? I think that's the appropriate level of us looking holistically with what we know for the community and our understanding there versus, like I'm not going to fill out the scoring rubric and think that I know how it works well. So
I appreciate that the staff who filled out the scoring rubric were the staff who work with after-school programming, because we did make a big change in our after-school programming this year overall, which took a lot of engagement and evaluation. And so I know they've recently gone through that process. Is it possible just to get an update before maybe the end of this calendar year on how this program is going, so the board can check in and,
Yeah, of course.
okay, thank you.
So I have a question about the program. How are we going to handle children of families who can't afford this, the cost of this program?
This was actually part of our RFP process. We had a specific portion in there that asked about scholarships, because it was something that we were mindful of, that we wanted to be able to offer this opportunity at all of our school sites. So one of the questions was, what type of scholarships could you provide?
These are scholarships from the vendor.
Scholarships from the vendor.
They're willing to pay for children who can't afford.
Correct.
Interesting.
Do some of the students we also have the ELAP program after school we have free after school programming for our low income students. So I'm hopeful that I would rather keep our students of high needs as long as we can during the school day. So if we can keep them until 6, which is what I think we try to do with our ELAP program, even our littles.
Yeah. So please make sure that those families are aware of this, and that maybe scholarship maybe there's a different word, right? I mean, it sounds like something one has to apply for and qualify for, and that people might not even start. Just say, hey, if you want to join, all right, you can without cost. And you set some kind of thresholds or whatever.
Absolutely.
To me, that's as Trustee Conley said, it's truly valuable to keep the children there and to help out those families who truly need that help.
Maybe this comment kind of goes to what Trustee Conley and Trustee Lambert were speaking about. Students can attend the after-school programming and then go directly into ELAP. They don't have to pick one or the other.
Any additional comments? So this is an action item. We have a motion to, or not? So I will move that the Board of Trustees ratify the contracts as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion by trustee Lambert and a second by trustee Henry that the Board of Trustees ratify the contracts as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to the next item. It's a discussion item, Measure T, summer construction update. I believe Dr. Westover will be presenting.
So we are back to our normal cadence of having a summer construction update to update trustees on all the activities that took place this summer. I'm going to move past our strategic plan slides. So to talk a little bit about the projects completed during summer 2025. So our outdoor learning areas project phase 2 at Vargas was completed. I know many of you have been out there to see it. We have some pictures to show you tonight. It's absolutely amazing to see. The kids are loving it. We are also finished with our HVAC phase 5 project, which occurred at Crittenden, Graham, Montaloma, Therakoff, mainly the libraries as well as the kitchens. The Montaloma fencing project, park restroom project at Castro Mistral, MI, and Landell. So the restrooms were substantially done prior to summer. The restrooms have been turned over to the city and we are working on final touches, including sod at this point. So this is a look at Vargas. I think the paint makes an amazing difference. So this is the specialized paint for blacktop areas. If you've been over there during recess and lunch, the kids are doing a lot more movement. They're using the entire campus. I think what's really special to see is we know that Vargas is one of our smaller footprints, but different areas throughout the campus have been set up for kids. So at one point, the kids weren't using the far end of the field. We rarely see kids there during lunch, but right now there's ball walls there. So the kids are out there and using it. So they're using the total campus. There's spaces. I think this is just super exciting to see. I mean, there's spaces for all types of play because not all students want to play foursquare on the blacktop. So there's different areas that the kids can hang out in at recess and at lunch. This is a look at our HVAC project. Less exciting to look at, but just as impactful probably. Looking at our Montaloma fencing project. And then our park restroom project. Wanted to talk a little bit about our roofing project that was scheduled to go this summer. There's a lot of text on this slide. I'm not going to read through it all. I will give you kind of the gist of it. Typically, roofing does not require full DSA review because we're replacing like with like, meaning it's not changing any of the structural elements. DSA came out with a new IR, so these are guidance that's given to DSA on what they need to do with projects. This came out right before summer, so in May. So school construction is not a fast process. When we do something that has to go through DSA, we're planning a year and a half in advance because the process, one, we have to design it, and then we have to submit to DSA, which can take over 6 months. So when this was issued in May, we said we were hopeful that because we were replacing like with like, that we would continue on with our roofing project. So we submitted it to DSA for an exemption. Submitting for an exemption is really kind of going above and beyond because they're saying, hey, we're checking that this is exempt, right? So we were double checking and saying our roofing project is exempt. DSA said, well, we'd like more information. And they wanted the original roofing materials that were used, which was put on in the 1970s. So we don't have that documentation, so we couldn't prove that we're doing like for like because the rubber content, et cetera, might be different. So we're going to go through a full DSA review this year, and next summer we anticipate doing all the roofs at once. So this will be a little bit of movement for summer school, but we don't want to wait another year because of escalation costs between 8 and 9%, which is pretty significant when you have a multi-million-dollar project. So we've already met with Ed Services, everyone's on board, and we're going to make it work next summer, but to get the roofs done. So that's why roofing didn't occur this summer. And then our priority 2 project list, and these are what's upcoming. So we have our public address upgrade at Stevenson and Graham, our bottle fillers, which will go in 2026, roofing project phase 1 and 2 also for summer of 2026. Outdoor learning phase 3 at our remaining school sites. This will occur right now in summer 2026 and summer 2027. Technology upgrade, phase 1 and phase 2, and Therkoff restroom modernization for next summer. Actually, today the board just approved the schematic design for the Therkoff restroom modernization and utility service and repair at Therkoff and Mauna Loma. Bill, this is actually tangential to a question you asked earlier. Are there times where we will take a repair project that's more of a capital facility? So this summer that did occur at Therkoff. Excuse me, Mauna Loa. Questions?
Trustee Conley?
I had thought that the open space projects were slated to happen in 2026, but now it says extending to the second summer as well. What,
I think our goal is 2026 and we're gauging DSA right now, but our goal is to,
okay.
Yep.
Because there are cost savings if in
Exactly.
being able to do it together
Yes.
and avoid escalation. Okay.
Any additional questions? Okay, open it up to public comment. We have one speaker in person. Is there anyone online who wishes to speak? Just to hold this open for a moment. Okay, I do not see any speakers online, so former trustee Nelson.
I'll wait for the clock because I'm going to run the clock out this time. Thank you. Yeah, one of the things that I think I said something about this, about general constructions to the trustees as a comment. Yeah, the roofing project, this is what happens when you take something that was clearly a priority 2, roofs that needed to be replaced. I'm really surprised that she said it was in the 1970s. Let's say it's 1980. That's 45-year-old roofs. Those roofs put on before Charles and Lisa were born. I don't know how old you guys are. It's hard when you get to be 74 to realize, what does a 45-year-old look like anymore? But that's how long some of these roofs have been. And they've been delayed and delayed and delayed. And what happens when you delay? You find there's another delay. And it's just a shame that this project has been, I would say, mismanaged. We have roofs that are deteriorating to the part that it's going to be under, not just underlayment, but it's going to be structural damage because these roofs are so late. So this is why I'd like you to take some of these projects and say, we want this done this year. And it's Greystone West, not our CFO, who is a manager of these kinds of projects. The other thing is on the second list, remaining priority 2. Remember, priority 2 has been changed. So this biggest possible remaining amount of money, $13 million, was added. This wasn't an original priority 2, all these $13 million. This greeting project or open space project, now it's turned into the outdoor learning project. So you look at that, and that's the biggest pot of money. And that was added by Conley and Berman initiated it, that wouldn't this be a good idea? There's leftover money. There isn't really leftover money because the bottom thing where it says utility survey, that has been taken off the projects. And it's not something that would be priority 3, even though Westover wants to call it a priority 3. It's bringing back a priority 2 object and getting rid of, as Trustee Lambert said, he's wanted to, this $13.8 million for putting it, these outdoor learning things that a lot of the constituents at the schools haven't said they agree on that it should be spent. Doesn't make any sense to allow sewers like happened at Amai break because they're 60-year-old sewers. If a sewer breaks, you can't run that school. If the water supply breaks, if gas lines start leaking, It costs $200,000 to replace the gas lines at my church. It's millions of dollars per site that is going to be needed. And you have that money. It's $13 million. You have the control. Say, we're going to delay these outdoor learning phase 3.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for comments. Trustee DeFazio?
As a parent with kids, a kid at Vargas, I want to express how I managed to see the site, and it's amazing. Kids love it, and I think we've had some really good feedback from the community directly about that. And so I'm really appreciative both of the families at Vargas advocating for their school and kind of reaching out to us to make sure that they got something that they were going to be happy with, and then with staff working with those school sites to make sure that everyone, you know, we have an outcome here where people are extremely satisfied with it. So I want to really I'm very appreciative of that.
Any additional comments? Trustee Conley?
Thank you, President Lambert, and thank you, Trustee DeFazio. I can't wait to go see it. I remember years and years ago, not long after former trustee Berman was elected to the board, she and I met at Vargas one weekend and walked around the campus and observed the community there and just the heat sink that it was when we talk about environmental, and we talk about just safety for our children being able to play outside in such an incredibly hot, all concrete, artificial environment. And to see it today be transformed into a space that children are thriving in is very, very exciting. I hope that we can do some sort of, maybe it's when the other projects are completed, but some sort of district, it's almost like an open house for the community. Welcome to our more accessible and climate resilient park space for all of our community residents, learning space for all of our children and families. I hope we can do some sort of welcome or ribbon cutting or something to really invite not just the students who are going to attend that school, but invite the community and invite the families in, and be able to enjoy that space together. And I'm hoping that we can do a school site tour of Landell soon as a board.
Any additional comments? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Westover. Okay, the last item on the agenda is, this is an action item for speech and language services.
Yes, this resolution allows our newly hired speech and language therapists who hold master's degrees to provide service for our students. Some of our speech language pathologists have credentials, teaching credentials, and others are able to work from master's degrees. And so we have a set of those teachers who you want to make sure are authorized by the board to provide speech and language services to our students. So I would love for you to consider approval of this resolution.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Any members of the public wish to speak in this item? I do not see any. Do I have a motion or comments or a motion from the board?
I make a motion to approve resolution number 03-082125 for speech and language services as presented.
Second.
A motion by trustee Conley and a second by trustee DeFazio to approve resolution number 03-082125, speech and language services. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item, item 9, board updates. Do I have any updates from the board?
Several of us attended the back to school night or back to school celebration that weekend. It was wonderful. As Superintendent Bear updated us earlier, but I think it was a really great experience. I'm thankful and I'm looking forward to next year's.
I was not in attendance. It was my birthday weekend and I was out of town. And so I have been MIA. And I think setting those boundaries of yesterday was my birthday and I was not calling anybody about any type of work business. So just putting that out there that I do have those boundaries, like on my birthday, spending time with my family, which we did lots of yesterday.
Trustee Conley?
Happy belated birthday. And also many of us, I think all of us were able to attend the all hands meeting, which is the first day of school in the afternoon. The entire district staff comes together for a very inspirational community building meeting. I'd like to thank Superintendent Bear for his inspiring speech, as well as our President Lambert, who spoke on behalf of the board. And the thing that struck me in your words to our staff, Superintendent Bear, and which I have heard from staff in the community repeated back to me, is you talked about leading from wherever you are. And, it's just an incredibly inspiring thing, not only to ask people to lead from wherever they are, but you recognize that many people in our community lead from wherever they are already, that every day you can find a bus driver or a teacher or an IA or a yard duty or a secretary, we have so many different participants in our school community who step up and lead in small ways every day and make our district better and better. So when I talked about, having higher standards as a community, I think you embodied that in that speech, and I have heard from employees who are really inspired by it. So thank you.
So I appreciate that. And even the community event last weekend was an example of that, right? That was really initiated by a couple of our school community engagement facilitators.
Going back to the all hands meeting, something that a couple of staff members shared was what a nice opportunity it was to gather together in an agendized way. Because so many staff members have been with the district for so long, many of them have served several sites. And this is an opportunity for them to reconnect with people at different sites because everybody's there, and liking the opportunity to do that at least once a year, maybe even to end the year with, was the suggestion.
Okay. Do items for future agendas, are there any suggestions for future agendas?
Would it be possible to discuss our governance calendar? Just because often we have time to do it at the retreat, but we had a very full retreat agenda. So it'd be nice for it to come back as an agenda item.
First of all, include it and then anything else? Okay, future board meeting dates. Well, we have can we say the special?
Yes, special.
So we have the special meeting next Monday, and our regular meetings on September 4th and September 18th. And I don't have any other comments, so I will adjourn the meeting.